Nadszedł czas zmiany, przejścia do prawdziwego działania wszechświata. I nadszedł czas, aby zrozumieć, że używamy stanu materii, by osiągnąć poziom zrozumienia duszy człowieka. Teraz rozumiesz, być może, dlaczego Kreator wysłał swoich posłańców w imię tego, co miałeś. To oni przynoszą uszy, aby można było ich użyć, gdy nadejdzie czas Mesjasza. Mogę nauczyć duszę i przesłanie, nie by się przeciwstawiać, ale poprzez ich zrozumienie, przez tych, którzy stali się Mesjaszami, aby dawać ze swoich dusz, aby ich elewować. Zadanie stało się łatwe. Szkoła jest tutaj i uczniowie są tutaj w oddaniu. Wtedy nie będzie żadnej walki między tym, co nazywają muzułmanami, a chrześcijanami. Baranek i lew będą jeść i spać w tym samym gnieździe. Chrześcijanie i muzułmanie będą spać i modlić się w meczecie, w tym samym kościele, w imię ich dusz, nie w imię religii, które są używane do tworzenia tak wielu konfliktów, dla korzyści tych, którzy byli hiperaktywnymi dziećmi. Nadszedł czas, czas zmian jest tutaj. I jak powiedziałem, moje życzenie jest moim rozkazem. Jeśli pragniesz ujrzeć pokój, droga pokoju jest wyłożona bardzo wyraźnie. To dusza świadomości zbiorowej. Poprzez dawanie stworzy tą pozycję zmiany. Nic innego. W duszy człowieka nie ma długopisu. Jestem pewien, że po wejściu do społeczności uniwersalnej nigdy nie zobaczysz niczego zapisanego, ale równowagę pól duszy egzystencji. Staraj się być na tyle pokornym, aby nie stać się aroganckim w mocy, którą zrozumiałeś i posiadłeś. Inaczej wpadniesz w tą samą ścieżkę kościoła i meczetu. To jest to, co obiecaliśmy i to właśnie dostarczyliśmy. Musimy zrozumieć działanie duszy i musimy zrozumieć, że dusza człowieka jest gwiazdą w kosmosie wszechświata. Jeśli porównamy duszę człowieka i tak wielu nas, 7 miliardów w jednym zbiorze, Ziemia jest jak galaktyka z tak wieloma gwiazdami. Kiedy patrzymy w głąb wszechświata, widzimy galaktyki z setkami milionów gwiazd. Podobnie jest z planetą Ziemią. Niesie 7 miliardów pięknych gwiazd, które są duszą człowieka. Niesie z sobą duszę tak wielu trylionów zwierząt, roślin i wszystkiego innego. Jeśli więc patrzą ci, którzy nie widzą fizyczności Ziemi i jej zawartości, co widzą? Widzą galaktykę z wielką ilością pięknych, świecących świateł. Każda według swojej siły. Każda zgodnie ze swoją pozycją. Niemowlę ma piękną duszę, podobnie jak staruszek. Dla tych niefizycznych, którzy nie widzą fizycznego wymiaru tej planety, ale widzą siłę pola, jesteśmy gromadami gwiazd. Ludzka rasa, każda pojedyncza dusza, nikt z daleka nie widzi. To jest dusza rybaka, to jest dusza kosmologa, to jest dusza prezydenta. Wszystkie świecą bez względu na fizyczność. To jest magia. Oto, co nowa nauka musi przynieść człowiekowi. Kiedy patrzymy przez naszą duszę, widzimy tylko gwiazdy w innych duszach. I to jest przełom. To jest zrozumienie. Na tym właśnie polegają te wszystkie nauki. Dojście do dojrzałości następnego poziomu, aby zrozumieć daleki kosmos. Wszechświat jest ostrygą dla tych dusz, które służą. Wtedy człowiek jest gotowy do wejścia w kosmos. Wtedy człowiek jest gotowy, aby stać się częścią uniwersalnej społeczności, która została obiecana. Nigdy nie obiecywałem wam nieba. Zawsze obiecywałem wam elewację człowieka, aby przyłączył się do rodziny. A teraz macie klucz. To wy musicie otworzyć drzwi, aby zrozumieć, że mogę elewować duszę tych ludzi lub milionów innych dusz, że fizyczne życie na tej planecie zmieni się. Wtedy jestem godny bycia częścią społeczności uniwersalnej, by być, aby służyć, aby się rozwijać, by być tam, aby być częścią, że w cyklu życia wszechświata staje się w byciu częścią, staje się częścią totalności. Kiedy człowiek osiągnie ten punkt, pojawi się nowy wymiar w sile duszy człowieka, który jest poza wyobrażeniem zrozumienia życia fizycznego. To jest brama do otwarcia nowego życia w nowym wymiarze, co jest poza wyobrażeniem tego, co mogliście nazwać nowym początkiem, nowym cyklem, gdzie ten cykl niesie ze sobą źródło stworzenia życia we wszechświecie i unikosie. To jest elewacja duszy, aby służyć. Stała się kluczem. Nie tron życia fizycznego. Czas jest odpowiedni, nadszedł czas, aby człowiek przeszedł przez ten proces.
Witamy wszystkich na 415 warsztatach poszukiwaczy wiedzy w języku polskim. Dzisiaj mamy niedzielę, 15 listopada 2020 rok i tematem jest kontynuacja tłumaczenia drugiej części 353 warsztatu poszukiwaczy wiedzy, a czasy przetłumaczone na dzisiaj to jest od godziny 46 minut do godziny 58, od 2 godzin 23 do 2 godzin 35, od 2 godzin 38 do 2:42 i od 2:46 do 4 godzin 7 minut 5 sekund. I w tym fragmencie są krótkie przerwy, takie chyba ze 2, ze 3, po 2-3 minuty. Po warsztacie zapraszam do rozmów, zadawania pytań, na które postaramy się odpowiedzieć. Tak więc zapraszam do obejrzenia, wysłuchania i dzielenia się wiedzą.
For any plasma to interact with another plasma, it needs to have a communication line. line of fields, chemical fields or whatever. And the way we interfere, you do it this way. You add a GANs into it, you add a GANs of the amino acid to it, and you do GANs of the even platinum or any other chemical. But once you add the amino acid, you interfere with. But you always have to have a CO2 in the patch, because all the lines of communication in the body is through CO2, through the copper line of fields. We presume they have developed a technology that this will amalgamate in somewhere in your body. It becomes a chip. In liver, in kidneys, or in brain, cannot reach because we have no blood in the brain. It could be on the veins of the cells to the heart or whatever. Wherever it sits, it can be found. But if it's the information transfer, you can deliver it and dismantle it. Immediately you receive an injection, they tell you when they're going to give you the injection, have all your patches ready and go. Don't fight, just dismantle it. And you ask the guy, I want the chip number on the injection. It's my right. That's your telephone number, how they control you. And is your right by law to know the ingredient of what they're injecting you. That gives you exactly what it is. By law, they have to give you what's the ingredient. You can immediately make the gas opposite to it. Send it to us, I'll give you the combination back. Once one of you finds out the combination, let the Keshe Foundation know. We immediately release the GANs composition you need to overcome it. I'll tell you why we're about to give you this information. In the structure of the universal community, sometimes we find creatures who get infected by specific fields, but we find a way to filter it. And in a way, this way, you filter the energy. But you have to find a component of what you are given. It's much easier for you. If not, if it's a chip, 100%'s got the titanium, 100%'s got the constructions of communication inside the chip, and you can parallelize it specifically this way. If it's a chemical one, which is a more developed one, done by Bill Gates, you can do it that way. I'm more worried about the side effect of the actual injection than the chipping, because what's in there, we've seen what happened with when they gave the injections of 3M to the children. We saw so many dyslexic and many other problems with the children in older age. And even that you can change with this process. Because you have already interfered with the corona itself. So if this has a connection with the corona, you can dismantle it. We have tested this in China, and it's effective. This is not something we just tell you it can be done. A version of these was tested in China for diabetic. on ankles and the wrist. Wang Lin, are you in the background?
Yes, Mr. Keshe.
Would you like to explain what happened with the beads in China?
Yes, we had teach a guy to make the ceramic beings. Actually, to add GANs into the ceramic to make cups, but he has some invention. He made a lot of beings, and a lot of people get these beings to like make necklace or like a ring to put on the wrist or ankle. And one of our friends, he had diabetes, and he showed us his leg. He said the place which have the ceramic beings with GANs and shows different skin. It shows like much better than other place. I think it's that.
And the diabetic, is diabetic reduced too?
Yes, yes.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Wang Lin. When I tell you to do this, because we have other experiences the same. Just follow the way, and you can interfere and you can block. Don't worry about the vaccination. Just if you receive it, you can block it. If it's a chip, the same. If it's a chemical, the same. But you need the creation of the fields in the manner which I've shown here. This is essential. This, what I call creating a field flow, is important. Both in the patch and along the length of the body. You literally, if it's an injection, it's most probably solidifies in the same position because he has to, it immediately enters a new environment, and you just patch it. Make a tea towel. You know the towels you use, the serviette you use. Make a serviette, wet it with a GANs mixture, put it in a plastic bag, like a ring, and put it on your arm in 2 positions. But try to put 2 and 1, that the field flow stays. You paralyze the system. And if you find it exactly where it is, patch it on it itself. You most probably have a feeling of tinkling on it in the area, so it shows it's developing or solidifying, or you feel something under the skin. And if you feel the extension of it, you can use the GANs of it in different ways, as you know how to do. They need to use a communication bandwidth, and the GANs has covered that communication bandwidth. Has a frequency. And certain ways to create gases can block. We've done that in Iran to the most advanced technologies. These are not that much. They are in the lower level, so it's much easier to block. Any other question?
We have a couple of hands up here with Miranez and Azar.
Let me explain something before we go further. Once we understand the frequency they use, through the gas enhancement unit and the system like that, we can set the structures of the cities to be blocked by it. This is why we want to increase the number of enhancement units around the world, that this will be the beginning of many other things they want to do. So in a way, we can block anything. This has to come to an end, abuse of the physicality of the mind. And this is how it will be done. It's the frequency of the cell, so it can be found very easy. It has a combination frequency, if it's on the matter state or other state. We have the knowledge and it can be done. I have no fear of vaccination, because gradually, before the vaccination starts, we release these technologies that the vaccination does not even go through. But till then, if you are in that position, you're put in that position, you can teach the people on the internet the way you did the One Cup, One Life. Teach them how to overcome vaccination, and if there is any chip in it. Mr. Gate, I snookered you to the wall. You made a big mistake. Microsoft will be so micro that it will become so soft that you can put it in your own body, nowhere else. As your wife said, it's micro and soft. Any other question? Man should not abuse a man this way. Go on the internet. You were proud to show the One Cup, One Life. Now show One Belt, One Life. No chip. One band saves life. We all wear armbands. Youngsters are used to wearing these elastics of different colors in past few years to show the solidarity or path of what they believe in, love, peace, or whatever. You can impregnate these and do the same. Do you want to go into a commercial break and then we answer other questions? You hear me now? It's okay. Thank you very much. What we have to understand is the extension to knowledge which we tried to explain before, and to understand the totality of it. As we said before regarding the soul of position and soul of presence, I received a note to explain this a little bit more, and in a way for better understanding. And in so many ways, we know this. I was explaining this to a knowledge seeker, so maybe in the same way I can explain more. We are aware of the soul of the position. We see it in many times, many cases, but we never understood it. I was explaining in a simple way that if you understand, is that we see this in animal kingdom, how animals find in a dimension of the position, but they use it in a different way. For example, we see pack of lionesses target, or cheetahs target an animal. We see them that they don't talk. They don't, we've seen this many times, even in recordings. But this is the lower level of understanding this, but maybe if I explain this, you understand it easier. For example, we see there is a pack of animals, and we have a group of lionesses or animals. They target the animals. They don't usually go in and right without anything. Silently, one moves. The other one moves in a different position, and each one knows how to take position. And then when the others are in position, they know when to push, and they walk them directly into one single position. We don't hear noises. They don't write to each other. There is no mobile communication. But they have developed this sense of positioning that they know in the back what the position of the others are before they make their move. They don't see each other. Us human beings have lost this capability. But animals bring that essence to it. We see this with the birds. In the autumn time, like now, they travel this together. Suddenly out of nowhere, they all come together. And they know where to gather. And they, as a flock of thousands, they travel. What is trigger for them to be in that position? Now we understand more, because there is a sense of a soul, a sense of energy that says this is the time, but triggered by given strength and fields or temperature or understanding of the environment. Mankind can do the same. And now, in the essence of the soul, you want to be in a certain position in the universe, certain position in the galaxy. There are no GPSs. There are no understanding of GPSs. This is what we call the position. This is what we call understanding of the position. This is where we live through understanding more. As I said, we've seen it before. We know, we understand, and now we can see examples of it. Up to now, nobody knew how and why. This is part of the structure of the soul. In a different ways, we have become more intuition about the knowledge and technology. Animals have kept the essence of the work of their soul in a direction and in a dimension of the strength that certain strength triggers it. Now we have to learn that. We have to relearn that because our ancestors knew this. We went to measurement of the skies and the sun to travel the oceans because we became too physical, too attached to physicality. In so many ways, we have learned a lot. We understand a lot. Now we understand the process. Now we can see similarity, so we can at least strive to reach to that point. Then we can understand what we assume not to be part of us is part of the structure of other creatures. Even those who even been created on this planet. They fly to the same position, to the same tree. Gravitational magnetic field of the Earth continuously moves, never stays the same. Do they use, as we assume, gravitational magnetic field of the Earth to find their position? Or do they work on a different understanding of totality of the position of the Earth as every year changes? Every time we have a magma eruption, the field essence of the planet changes because part of the internal magma is used. The combination of the field changes. We accepted that they use geomagnetic fields, but is it? Or do they have a higher sense of presence and position? Something mankind has missed. Or we have to strive to reach the elevation of the soul.
Hello, Mr. Keshe. Did you hear the question?
Can you repeat again?
The first question was, a doctor was talking about the vaccination can cause the change of the human DNA, and with it, the change of RNA. The question is, why they're trying to change our DNA and RNA as human? And the second question is, when the first person say, I go get the first vaccination, what is the time limitation until I get the material involved in the vaccine, like say titanium X, Y, and Z, until I make the gases for it, like takes a week or two? Is there any time limit?
Prepare yourself before you go.
But how do I know the material inside the vaccine?
They usually, if it's a chemical, it has a, what do you call it? It has a combination which the vaccine should overcome. The patches you make should overcome because you use a GANs of CO2, the amino acid usually interacts, because if it is within cell of the body, it has to communicate within the cell of the body. And our cells communicate through the CO2 and through its amino acid. So if it's a material injection as a chip, again, has a structure of a CO2 connection with it or a metal connection. Usually, if they don't use copper, they use titanium. So you cover yourself both ways. These chips, if there's a solid chip, has to be detectable. And if it's detectable, it has a metal component or a chemical component composition. Either way. Be prepared for it. We didn't know the corona came, we made the gases, we prepared for it, we do the same now. Make both. We don't know what combination they use because we know the chemical version has already been developed.
Mr. Keshe, what's the reason they want to change RNA and DNA?
The way we say it is a social control. You know, the kings always have to have, they have a kingship, and then they have subjects and they're proud to be. And even the world leaders we see presently in your country, in US. A guy has enjoyed to be called the president, he's doing every trick in the book to stay president. Why? Because of yes, president, yes, your leadership. Ego trip. Now, the pride that they can control the humanity. Why did they plant the chips in the women in India? Switch on, switch off. Now nobody can switch on if they don't decide not to. That's all.
Thank you, Mr. Keshe.
Moral, I want to do good, to be good and things good for me and for humanity.
Yeah, but I still have a question is, how do you recognize your soul? If you understand it, and how do you see its existence, if I can put it that way?
I can see, I can feel it. I have a feeling, I mean intuition.
Yeah.
Yes, it's like intuition. I listen to my intuition, and I listen through meditation. And sometimes I have films, sometimes I have flashes. And always when you to start to talk, to speak, sometimes I go in delta, and I go out from my body and I travel. Always when you start to speak in the night, I just go and out of body and travel and see many things, and this is the answer of my questions, and I'm sure this is the answer of my soul. The soul guide me and help me to find the answer. I don't know if I'm correct. Maybe I'm crazy, but this is my feeling. You ask me and I answer to you at my level and of understanding.
Okay, if you look at the way we try to understand, is that the soul is where our physicality, in essence, is the creator of our creation. We see the soul, as we always consider to be not part of us, is something outside, but now we know it's within us, because our physicality is made around it. In celestial bodies, that center is in the middle of the star, is in the middle of the planet. With us, as a human being or as a tree or whatever, we have not curled up to be that. We have decided to take a different position. But because we are near the center, another stronger center like Earth, the distance of the strength of our soul in respect to the Earth's central magnetic field force and its matter state inertia has decided to find a position that at that position it can integrally hold on to physicality. So we can move it anywhere once it made this structure. We can be in the womb of the mother on the 10th floor, we can be in the womb of the mother on the ground. It doesn't make any difference, because in that position we have accepted by genetic or by collection of fields that we take this shape, this position. And in so many ways, now we have taken shape, we are independent, but we still compromise with the field strength of the position we are in. On Earth, we are 50 kilo, on Moon, we are 30 kilo. But that is, in essence, the total mass of us, maybe is 10 kilo. Doesn't matter wherever we are. But in respect to the position, we find a place. So the soul is independent. Once it's created, desires the representation of the physicality is created around itself. The soul, what it creates around it, we call it the earth. The soul man created, we call it the body of the man. So that's the soul. But we have to understand, in a way, we can cut into certain depth of its strength. When we didn't have the material, we could dig with a spade and a hammer. We couldn't go more than a few meters down. We got educated, we understood the use of tools. Now we drill deeper. We go closer to the center, to the soul of the system. It's the same way. Now mankind up to now used to dig with a spade and hammer on the surface of his physicality in contact with his soul. Now with the teaching we go deeper. How deeper can you drill or go to a higher strength? The more you understand of the higher order structure. On the surface, you have a soil and dust. In the center, you get to gold, you get to magma, you find to plasma. And that's all it is. Then you understand more what is hidden within the earth when you dig more. And with teaching, we are doing the same. We teach you more what is hidden inside. And it's for you to understand what you can do with what's inside. You reach gold, what do you do with the gold? You reach platinum, you reach other materials. So in a way, you call it the digging in the shape of man, understanding of the man. We call it elevation, understanding more, going deeper in the structure of the soul. Then up to now, we've been in touch with the surface of it. Physical emotion, eating. Now we go deeper in the soul. And this is when you get more, then you find a way to melt the gold. You increase your knowledge, because up to now it was just something, piece of metal. Now you increase knowledge, how to melt it, how to shape it, how to present it. And that's the soul of the man, is a gold. Is how the more you understand, the deeper you go. You get to more precious materials, which man hasn't got to know. Now with the digging deeper, if we can go below 100 meters or 10 kilometers or 100 kilometers, then we find more materials, more rare earth. To us is rare, but in the center is very common. On the surface doesn't exist. Very little of it. This is what, as a geologist, we see. The deeper we go, the deeper we even go in the ocean, we find animals which can't exist on the surface. But according to our data, is a place nothing could exist. But we see it still exists in the depth of the ocean, high temperatures, we said before. So enlightenment or elevating the soul, it means to understand more of what is there, and when you have the knowledge, how to access it, how to be able to use it. And this is what it's called. This is what it is. It's not that how to access it, is to understand more of it. When you can go really to the depth of it, to the center of the planet or whatever, we call it when you reach the essence of the level of the creator. Because again, is of one essence. So when you speak about elevating the soul, is how much have you dug into to understand more about this construction, more about this interaction.
Yes, thank you. It's clear. But these units, how can help the people
in
to do it?
Sorry, carry on.
Yeah.
Carry on.
Yes. How can I explain to other people and convince them that these units can help them?
The thing is
yes.
to help them. Yes, I understand. The thing is that in these units, we have dug into, we gone further in the strength that you don't need to dig. To have a gold ring, you don't need to get a mine and go and dig a mine to get to the gold and bring it. Mm-hmm. You go to a jewelry shop and it's there on the table because somebody else has done that. To elevate the soul of the man, we've done that. The system combination carries in essence the totality of the essence of the creation. So is there. Those who cannot make, they can be helped to reach. You buy the ring, you wear the ring. You're given the knowledge, you carry the knowledge in the essence of the elevation of the soul. As simple as that.
Yes, so you make a parallel between the gold, which is like the soul, and we can see the gold because it's physicality, but we can see the soul because it's another nature of
it's another field strength.
Yes.
If you go to the strength of it and you want to manifest an apple in front of you, you know the strength that you have at this point can become to manifest this as an apple. You like the taste, the color of it, to you is an apple. Then because you put the emotion and the presence on it, you create the apple.
I see.
Because we already have a reference point of the apple which we need. We shown that with the orange. We put the texture, the orange out, and we tasted the taste of the orange, the energy of the orange, and the emotion of orange by drinking the water. Is it because we saw the orange, or if we just give this cup of water to somebody on the street and they tell us, oh, this tastes like orange?
Mm-hmm.
You understand?
Yes.
So in essence, we, as somebody said, as you buy a mobile phone, you don't need to know how it works, how it's put together.
Mm-hmm.
So as we cannot teach the man one by one, we elevate the soul of the totality in that level that they all understand.
Yes, I do. I understood. Mm-hmm.
Thank you very much.
Yes. Thank you very much.
Thank you. You're a professor in theology, am I correct?
No, no, I'm not in theology.
What are you?
I'm a professor on international relations.
Yeah, I remember you or
But
something.
my dream was in 2000 to find a new theory of knowledge, which put together the ethics, put together the spirituality and all sciences, applied sciences, natural sciences, and social sciences, and worldview. And with this instrument and with an integrative method to find solutions for elevation of humanity, and not only for humanity, for the soul. And you answered to my question, you find it, and I came because of it, of my wish. It was my need, and the universe sent me this opportunity. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Welcome. I'm
Thank
happy.
you.
Yeah, I'm so happy.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. God bless you, Mr. Keshe. I love you.
Thank you very much. Any other question?
Okay, let's see here. Ike was guessing about your suggestion that there's a race that did not do well in the past and got eliminated, and he's guessing
Now got
either
eliminated. They were put on their own hold. We don't destroy. It's just they don't have the capability to understand what they do wrong. They stay in the dimension of physicality.
So he is guessing either the dinosaurs or
Nothing
the
to do with this planet. Nothing to do with this
Atlantis.
planet.
Atlantis.
Nothing to do. Nothing to do with this planet.
Ah, okay. Thomas asks, do the planned chips have the ability to actually interfere with the body, or is it simply an identification tool?
According to what is present in understanding, they have reached the structure. What I think they have used part of a structure to be able to interact on the emotional level or control. They tested these times ago with chips in the brain to see how it is, and they have converted it in the chemical combination. Gates Foundation has spent a lot of money over years to achieve this.
A question from Jefferson, do the patches have to be used forever or only until they neutralize the chips?
Till they neutralize. I mean, if it's no chip, they say there is no chip, there should be no problem. Nobody will call you back to come and replace your chip, is it? If you receive the chip and you go and feel emotional changes, let us know. We then will tell you how to develop a system to interact with the emotion. Any combination they move, we can move with them.
Dean asks, is there a patch for humanity? Our chip is our soul.
What does he mean?
I'm not sure. He would have to address that directly, I think. I'll allow you to talk if you want to express something there, Dean.
Thank you, Rick. Thank you, Mr. Keshe. My question was really, you showed the patch on the arm, and with this technology, as we know, in macro and micro, everything scales up. So there must be a patch for humanity to stop this this constant position that repositioning that humanity has found itself in. That would be my question for the patch side. The chip, when we come into physicality, the chip is within us. That wealth, as you say, is within us. The soul of humanity. So the chip itself, for me, with our soul, with the intention of our soul, we can change our reality, and we can manifest. And the teachings that you've given us, the beauty of the knowledge that you've given us, I think humanity can come to a position where it changes itself, not only physically with the chips that are being given to us, but on a much deeper level, on an understanding of the totality of the knowledge of the thoughts and intentions within us. I think humanity is coming to that point where it's starting to really understand, like the video you've shown in the intermission, that deep understanding of the true essence, the true beauty of the soul, and how it encompasses the whole of totality. That very deep understanding. I think that field strength is now apparent, and it seems to be the message that you've been teaching, I think, is as there's a significant point that we've reached where we understand. I think we understand the teachings on a very strong level.
It's how we interpret the knowledge and how we understand the knowledge. And is the intuition, it's what it touches our soul. You got to feel it, you got to understand it. In the emotional level, in the soul level.
Definitely feel it, Mr. Keshe. I'm funny enough. All the soul interactions happen all the time. I'm looking at your third book here, The Origins of the Universe, Man's Universe, the Sister Universe, the colors that are involved. It's that understanding of the thought, the intention, that being the thought of the creator, just getting to that true essence of stillness, that beautiful stillness within us. I think that's starting to become apparent to humanity. I certainly feel it myself anyway.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
In essence, we all know it, but in essence, we have decided not to remember it. We got too much involved in physical dimension. And that is the pitfall.
Mr. Keshe, the universe speaks in many ways. It's constant. In the physicality, I see the messages all around me a lot, and it just, I think the message is the soul is coming to a position where it's, as you would describe, starting to come outside of the body, to be more expressive, to be more present.
More interactive.
More interactive, yeah.
We are not interactive anymore in the center. Maybe we can announce, that people know. As you know, the Austrian government has issued a regulation due to Corona that no exhibition, no conferences, no presentations can be held in Austria in the month of November till the end of the month. And we tried to negotiate to keep the exhibition center open, and they said it's a public domain. And so the exhibition by the order of the Austrian government, as everywhere in Austria, is shut down. We are under what we call national rules and regulations. We have a curfew from 8 o'clock at night till 6 o'clock in the morning. And all the restaurants and all the public places are shut down for a month to stop the growth of the corona due to this epidemic, as many other European nations have faced it. England has come to the same pattern today. So the exhibition center of the Linz is closed by order of the national government, that everything like this cannot function to stop the corona, and will be reopened, hopefully, if they don't extend it, from 1st of December. We'll continue after the 15th. We're open from 1st to the 15th. And then after the 15th, again, we open from the 2nd week of January or 1st week of January, depending how the center opens up. So those of you who plan to come in November, the exhibition center is open for us to go in to look after the things, but it's not open to public to come in due to the corona infection. Thank you very much. Any other question?
Hello, Mr. Keshe.
Hello, Madam Magdalene.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
I heard somebody told me that before our soul is actually in a position of our heart, but something happened and it changed, and then the soul repositioned in the brain. So is that change cause the break between our heart and the brain, so that we cannot feel the united as oneness, and then it separate our physical soul and our soul?
So if I tell you you were a piglet and then you changed to man, do you accept that too? We have the soul of physicality and we have a soul of the, what you call the man. The soul of physicality is like the inertia. And the soul of the man is magnetic gravitational, what we call maggrav. And it seems a lot of knowledge seekers have not understood this. That's why we explain in a stacker unit, we put the soul of the man, we put the soul of the planet, we put inertia, which is from interaction of the fields. Man is independent. So now he has a soul of the man, which is soul of the creation of it, and the interaction with the environment of it makes the inertia, what he absorbs in a plasmal condition, which we call the soul of physicality. And then the interaction of the inertia, field the strength, and the field of the environment makes the physicality of the planet. So it makes the physicality of our body. In essence, our soul of physicality is the totality accumulation of all the souls of every cell in our body, which has found a way to interact with its master, which is the soul of the man. We call that the soul of the physicality. And we transfer the emotions of it through what we call the blood as a collective dimension. But each cell is too weak to reach, so we use the blood in another dimension for it. For in a way transferring of all the feelings around everywhere together. But in fact, the soul of man, which is within the center of his brain, shines on every soul, single soul of the structure of the physicality of the body, man. It's like the gravity, the maggrav, goes through every single atom of every entity on this planet. This is the simplest explanation and the correct explanation of it. The soul of the man cannot sit in the heart. The soul of the physicality, accumulatively, because it all comes in, sits, can be in a way within the heart of the man, but in essence, it transfers its fields and its energy through the blood circulation. That's why we feel most of the physical emotions in our heart. Because continuously everything comes in and it makes it the center, but in essence the soul of physicality has a total dimension of every cell of the body of the man. In the matter state we call it inertia. And this is one of the reasons when mankind becomes more elaborate in understanding of the totality of the fields. What we have now, we show aura of the physicality. We can see the aura of the soul of the man expands beyond the aura of the physicality.
Mr. Keshe, this is also in that context, why we call the physical soul of physicality as a leech to the soul of the man, and why the compromises has been made by the emotion of the man?
Because it controls it. You see, inertia of the planet with the material on it is not the leech of it. It's the acceptance that both exist. But it covers, one protects the other. But with a man, man uses the emotion to control the soul and control the physicality. This is where the problem is. The inertial mass of the materials on this planet do not stop the field strength of the gravity and magnetic field of this planet to reach every corner of the universe. But the body of the man has created condensation of or concentration of the cells in a way to control what goes in, what comes out.
And Mr. Keshe, I understand this very well. I mean, this is something with the cup of man. If we interact with the cup of man, actually the cup of man teaches us that I see it actually it is very beautiful, like your I don't know how to explain it. Like, for example, the soul, and when you look at the soul, it's not our condition. Like, for example, the thing that you think you are that. Like, for example, let's say I'm a dentist. My name is Azar, and then I am a mother, or I live here, or I eat this. If I put that aside, the real me, the soul itself, has nothing to do with that. So it can live beautifully without, because the emotion, because I can sit here, if I can explain it this way, I can sit here and bring out anything that I see as my life, and I explain it, and tell you every single thing that has happened to me or is happening right now, and really bring the emotion and sit down and become sad and depressed and cry for you. But then when I go to the soul and I come from my soul, none of that really exists. That's my own creation, this physicality, because then you become free. Actually, the Cup of Man for me was really a lot of teaching from Cup of Man, because it really separated the physical soul from the soul. So if we understand this, every single minute of our life is a life itself. It has nothing to do with what where you live, what you do, what's happening to you. None of really matter. Even the most horrible thing happened to you because it's happening to physicality. The soul is still can perceive life as beautiful as it is. It doesn't matter what it is, but understanding it, being in that position, it just you just have to get that position. Once you get to that position, then you understand it, then you're free. Then really nothing can affect you. It doesn't matter, anything happens, you can just go with it, go with the soul. I don't know if I explain well, but that's what my understanding. That's what I feel.
Yes, but is the way the things are. And it's the way we see things. But is the reality what we see is what we have and what we want to see and have. Man has to understand that in so many ways we chose the way to be. And we chose what we want to accept.
Okay, I've got a second here. A couple of other questions. Lothar says, how can we avoid 5G influence to our body?
We can do the same as you've done with the gases, but you have to understand the frequency they use. The matter frequency which is used, if it's on the level of the cell of the man, then you increase or decrease the level of it to whatever it is. It's 5G today, something else tomorrow. In a space, these things continuously changes because plasma doesn't have frequency. When it reaches your body in a mixture with the matter states of plasma of the body of the man, it finds a frequency to penetrate. And that frequency is what we need to find out what it creates vibration within a cell and which cell. One of the things which primarily we are looking at and how the things like 5G affects the body of the man is in a plasma state, it transfers through, but when it interacts with a solid matter like the bone, then it converts, and then it affects the creation of bone marrow, because the bone marrow is passing through as a lymph through the bone to become a bone marrow. So with the way we see it, how these frequencies interact, and we see some of them effective, is because in the tissue of the body of the man as a gans, we don't see much interaction, because we receive many of these frequencies right across the universe. But when these frequencies hit the solid matter, that's where they got to interact. That's where they got to manifest themselves, what they leave as residue. And as the bone of the man is a cave of conversion of lymph to physicality, to what we call bone marrow, then it's like heating up and changing the structure of the lymph in that point before it becomes the creation of the DNA and the rest of it. So we deal with a different structure of lymph before conversion. And scientifically, this is what we see. And this is interesting if we understand this point. If we understand how we see the structure of this this being, this structure, this this how we call change of the frequencies. To affect our condition. And this is how they interfere with our amino acid, with our, we see interaction with it. We done tests, as I said, if you've been in some of the teaching in the past, on masks in Belgium, around 2010, 2011, 2012, around that time, to see the interaction of people who were suffering from the frequency from the masks in the city of Ghent. And it's very clear that some of the masks interact with the iron of the creation of the blood cells in the bone marrow, in the beginning in the bone. And when we start looking at it, why they only get iron affected, we look at the source of the creation of the cells, and then we could see clearly, as long as you can block. We made them helmets to block it, to see if they can stop. But it was deeper, so it was clear that the interference comes from the, what we call, production of the bone marrow, where the matter changes, the what they call the field's frequency changes to another frequency when it hits the bone. And it creates a new structure in the amino acid when the bone marrow is created. Plasma flows on a straight line, more or less. Magnetic fields, they bend due to other fields, but in a way, they do not become frequency. When a field needs to penetrate a body, it's like a drill. It has to drill so much till it finds a gap that it can go through. And that drilling is by changing its strength and turning into it. That's how sinusoidal waves are made. That's why we see frequency on the triangle, or we see on the different shapes. The essence of the creation is at what point you can release, at what point you can penetrate. if we understand the true essence of the creation of the frequencies, then it becomes very easy. So when you have these masks that they emit certain frequencies, it won't be just 5G. Some of us could be allergic to mobile phones, the remote controls we carry. There are different levels of it. We just pick one up because it suits us. And it's very simple if you understand it. But to our research, most of the changes coming from these masks come through the iron combination, which actually most of it, manifestation point of it, is in the bone marrow. The bone marrow is a lymph, has no identity. The lymphs which go through the bone marrow are just packs of energies. The identity is given according to what passage they go through the bone and at which point of the bone cavities they go through and what dimension they take. If you look at it, a lymph is like a very much. I explained this in one private teaching. I hope I can explain it in a way that you see it, you understand it. If you look at it, this is your bone structure. And bone structure has different cavities. And according to the size of and the shape of the cavity, different, what do you call it, bone marrows are produced. By the time they get pulled into the center of the bone as a bone marrow, here, they decide by their strength what position they take in the bone marrow. As they build to the center, they become higher ordered, which most of the immune system is built here because they collect from the energy of the other fields. They have that. That's why immune system is important. If I can explain to you in a matter state, if you've been in the extrusion business, where we take a big copper wire and then we make it smaller and we extrude it to the sides, and then we put another smaller and we make it smaller, and then we make it even smaller and we make it literally into a thread, a string. This is what your bone marrow does. This here is 1. It goes through this channel. Here is 2. This is this one. This one is 3. This one. You cannot, if this is 1 centimeter in diameter, this is 1 micro, you cannot pass what you pass here. This has a different strength, different purpose. So it's the same as lymph of the man and the cavity which goes. And so what happens in what I call masks or other things, we have this, we'll get this if we decide to take a dimension in a physical matter in another position in the universe of the body of man, we'll see it just dissolves. So when a mask comes, they come here, and then at this point they interact. And what this bone marrow becomes is this. What this bone marrow becomes is this. And then the amalgamation of these two and others becomes your immune system, because it carries all the knowledge, all the energies. If you get the bone and cut it and blow it, sand blow it, you will see these cavities. In a way, if you turn this upside down, you have the similarity to it. We know this. You call it different name. This is the cloud. And the interaction of the fields above with Earth and the Sun creates plasmas. These plasmas, in interaction with what we call the inertia of the planet here, as they come in and they change, or as oil or whatever, as they go through, they become magmas. And in the essence of the energy, they bring the totality of energy of what is absorbed in the universe to here. And then we collect some of it as oil in different layers. And then we dig it out and we use it what we like. This digging out of the oil in the conversion is the same as digging out the amino acid as an amino system. It's the collection of everything which has come down and washed down into this. Mankind hasn't even understood the beauty of the oil. They're using it for nothing. If one day mankind understands the power of the oil we dig out of the ground is the collection of the beauty of the energies of the universe, mankind will never burn it, will worship it. As I said, man is physical. And this is the same. There is no difference between any of these if you understand the knowledge of the creation. When you go to magma, when you go to the essence of the creation of the soul of the plant, when you go inside, this is of the highest order, which leads to the creation and totality, aware of what's happening outside to adapt itself, that it can live within it. What feels absorbed within the core of the planet is exactly what is interaction with the rest of the fields of the solar system and the universe. And the planet, according to what it receives, adapts itself to keep its construction and its integrity. Mankind hasn't understood because you don't have the knowledge. Secondly, you haven't understood the totality.
Mr. Keshe, in one of your teaching, you said every curvature, every hole, every cavity in your body has a magnetic field, maglev, that interact with the universe. And actually, talking about the bone, in a spongy bone, there's a matrix of a spongy bone. When you look at it, because of all the matrix, the distance between all those little cavities, the way it's created, create this magnetic field that each of these cavities function for the absorption of the calcium, phosphor to come to the bone, and then the engineering world had used that matrix.
The spongy bit is the export part.
Yes, but you know, the world of engineering used that matrix to build buildings around the world that uses the same field for stability of the buildings. So
we all learn from nature.
So it means that everything that in our body that we see, every every deviation, like even if you look at the wrist, it has the pattern of the bone is not uniform, is very uniform.
Every bone in the body of the man creates a marrow according to what is needed to be used. We see this, I explained this in part of the teaching somewhere. We see the ribs. The ribs produce a specific bone marrow, which is needed by lung, primarily. And they produce, but if it goes in at the raw state, if you break a rib bone, and the rib bone which creates the bone marrow for the lung, and it penetrates the lung and is not converted to what is supposed to be to reach for the continuous use of the immune system fields of the lung, It's a poison to the lung and it can kill you. What is there to help the operation of it? If it interacts with the lung, the same bone marrow creates an infection with a combination of the calcium of it that it can kill you. Many people in a car accidents or in accidents which the rib breaks and penetrates the lung, the lung is totally not freed and the bone stays in touch or within the structure of the lung. People die within 6 to 12 months from that infection. What is there to create life, it becomes a poison because it hasn't been transferred to the plasma conditions in a strength which hasn't received conversion. At the end of our bones, all these what we call chewable parts are part of the extraction of the fields for our heart and for our lung to create a condition, magnetic field of that the lung can operate and disinfect itself continuously. This is the purpose of the cage we have, that we put a lung in there, a continuous disinfectant area. In the digestion system, we don't need that. We are more free of it because the acids created there in a physical matter of what we consume does that. But if you look at it, it's the same. It's the same with our skull. Our skull continuously creates a field plasma of a bone marrow of itself. Because of its shape, we don't see the bone marrow, but it creates that field. That field protects the brain from receiving infections. We have the same thing in our hip. If you cut the hip bone, you still see marrows. It's for keeping the reproduction organs totally continuously disinfected, or in operation of the field strength. Some of the bones are totally continuously in immune production system. There is nothing else. They just continuously create immune field system energies that it create a plasmatic disinfection. This is what I told you. You do the same thing with the viruses. We are not teaching something which is not. This is exactly how things operate in the body of the man. We create a clean environment. We put maggrav systems and different systems that creates that condition of the cage. Your bone marrow does not need to come out of it to be used to go to a cell. It creates it, and in its environment creates a field which keeps the lung disinfectant and keeps the operation of it. Some of it at its ends are fed in and become part of and everything else. If you look at your ribs, the shape of them, where are they connected? How are they connected? What do they produce? What do they feed? What are they connected to your spine? Look at the shape of the shape of every vertebral disc. Not connected, but produces a massive magnetic field to contain it. If you look at your spinal cord and your spine, you actually got a tokamak. It's a reversal tokamak. It holds the magnetic field, energy field of. If you look at your spinal cord, and if you look at your discs in it, this here is a massive plasma transformation both ways. Your bone is, your discs are massive containment tokamak to keep this field inside. It doesn't leak outside and it goes through where it's supposed to go. And then when you see what is converted to what we call discs here, It's the same thing, but without the calcium, but allowing field flow that the nerves can break through. The difference between the magnetic gravitational field of these two allows the cavity for the nerve system to come. It's not just coincidental. It's taken billions of years to generate the fields to the right way that it creates that cavity for the nerve system to flow between the discs. The information doesn't get lost. You live in the body of the man in a plasmatic condition. And even these discs create their own bone marrow to create the fields that can contain the information going down and up through the channels. Otherwise, all these leaks, when the information comes from the brain or from the organ, is gone somewhere. If you look at it, you have a one circulation of CERN, as you want to call it, but in a straight column. You have to be able, these vertebrates, the bone marrow, or the, in fact, neurosystem, is a communication line system. And you have to hold it as a high speed cable. And for it not to lose any, body has created, okay, we need a vertebra to be standing up to have a shape, but body has used as a containment field flow. And then if you change slightly the position of the one or the other, you have problem with the disc and the nerves and the rest of it. The physicality of the man is very simple if you look at it from the magnetic, gravitational point, but all of it, not just where you choose. Every bone in the body of the man, doesn't matter if it's the wrist or is it the leg or the toes, all create a magnetic field. If you even look at the shape of the bones in your foot, everything has a specific positioning to make sure, more or less, the work of it is to keep one neurosystem in, that it keeps the physicality in balance. If you look in if you look at the foot of the man, I'm not a very good drawer, whatever fingers you have and the toes, there is one neurosystem which goes through it. And the whole operation of all your bones in your body, more or less, is to keep this nerve in line. That's all it is there for. Part of it because you walk on it. But this nerve touches, your life changes. If this nerve moves a micromillimeter, you have all the pains and all the operations you go through. The structure of the foot, when you look at it, the shape of it, your bone and everything else is all, 99% of it is to keep this nerve in a straight line. Because this nerve controls your upright position. In your body, you have two control of the positioning. One is on the bottom of your foot and two in your ear, inner ear. This balances this for the head, which is for the soul not to move too much, and this one controls the physical upright position. If you move this slightly, you find all pains and problems. And many of you have been with me, I do this quite frequently. If you're walking, your ladies, with your summer shoes and you move this, slightly gets caught by the table, this moves from here to here, then you have all the back pains and then the shoulder pains and everything, because this nerve has moved. The operation of all these bones you carry is to create a magnetic field that this line stays in its position. And how this line stays in position, the shape and the size of it, decides the characteristics of your height, your physical feature, your physical dimension. This nerve at the bottom of the foot, this, because if it cannot support it, you cannot have it. The size of the breast, the size of your buttocks, all decided by this strength of this nerve. because it's a balancer. You put a weight in the front, I put a weight in the back, I create a balance. This nerve adjusts. And then all the little tiny little bones which you have in your foot is to correct all the motions of this leg, because all these in fact are connected to your verticality. This is to control there because it's for the liver and the breast. This is for the buttocks and that. If something happens, you fall on the ground, something happens, this moves slightly to keep you upright. The physical structure of the man and the diversion and conversion of the fields in the bone marrow state for every bone is partially to create that fields that lead to controlling neurosystems and information transfer and upright position. Many of you women, especially with your high heels, if you look when you're walking with the high heels and you change the position in your foot, you twist your ankle. Why? Because you have moved in the shoe and the position of it than being like this. It does what happened to correct itself. It has to twist one point, and that's why you bend your knees. No, sorry, twist your ankles, because this nerve is moved. This nerve has to find a position. Why don't we see people walking straight going through this? If somebody walks and goes through a straight and twists the ankle, maybe because of the change of surface, because this cannot control. But if this is removed, if it's this position with your toe moving, you find you get the twist in your ankle, you get the pain in your ankle, then sciatic nerve and everything else goes up. Everything has to adjust, because this tiny little nerve is the control of all your physical structure. The other part of it, in the inner ear, is more or less is for your brain and your soul. This protects itself, this protects itself. This is the soul, and this is for physicality. And people who lose their foot, this nerve goes to diversion in the pinpoint accuracy to the end of the nerve which was connected. Then it becomes very hard. That's why with amputation we cannot walk. If in the future the scientists can develop the system that this nerve at the end of the amputation becomes flat like this, you can still hop with one leg as normal, because that will create a balance. Everything is understanding the principle of it, not just what we've been told to accept. The shape of the dome of your foot, your toes, all is more or less to protect that. And as I was explaining to a knowledge seeker recently, when you look at the what do you call it, your fingers are the path to the universe. You absorb energy to it much faster. This is what it needs to come. And then your bones and the fields in them decide how, what is needed to be converted. You give the same out from it, pinpointed. This is why when you look at your skull, the fields is in 3-dimensional. Goes everywhere. With your fingers is pointed, a specific strength. When you look at the finger of a woman or a man or a child, you can tell the characters what it is, in what energy they receive. Why do women wear nail varnishes and they put this false nail on their finger? Because they hide, but in fact they cannot. The body will still receive it, but they hide their true character. Because when you look at a toe, when you look at the shape of a nail, when you look at the shape of a finger, it gives you every indication about the characteristics of the person. It's the fields they absorb and the fields they give. I can give you many examples. Our body converts these energies to emotion, to fields, to protection, to protecting the physicality. The shape of a nose, the shape of the ear, everything. When you look at the person, you know what you got in your hand. If you understand the source of creation, what energies they absorb. Why do the Chinese have a specific characteristics, and why do the North European have different characteristics? And these things I've explained in many teachings. Why do the Chinese believe in yin and yang? Because the skull structure is too small, and they had to face the reality of continuously analyzing which is the reality, because they see two visions. If you look at a Chinese television, I've explained this before, if you look at the eye of a Chinese person, one is here and the other one is here. Or when this one moves to this position, this one moves to this position. So the brain receives two images and has to recognize which one is more real and what combination of the two can accept. It's continuously judgmental. When you face an European or outside China, mainly because the skull is bigger, when you look at the eyes, it's centralized. So the brain, instead of spending energy to recognize, it confirms that both pictures are real, can be used. So energy is used for different things and becomes more materialistic. The position of the eye creates the behavior, and it's cultural. Just go on the television. I lived in China for 2 years, and I always watch this. Even the speech, the talk is different. When you look at a Chinese man or a woman, by looking at their eyes when they move, you know who you're dealing with, how much recognition of the truth is within them. They call it yin and yang. They have to find a balance. Creates a culture. We all think the same because we don't always trust, but because we have to trust one, we do the other one, we create the two. But the Western Europeans, with a broader head, the brain sits exactly in the right position to look. Then man becomes more materialistic. It believes in what he sees. This is why we have the terminology in the West. To believe it, to see it, to believe it. A lot of our culture as a race comes from the position of our eyes. What we see, in what angles we see, in what colors we see the images through our eyes. And then all these need to be created by the skull to be able to understand and control the field in what you see. If you take the skull of a man, and this is the eye, and you change, I'm going to draw it in two ways that you can see it. And you create take this skull away and create a gap in here, the vision changes. The man perception of everything changes. Take this out and put a platinum here, which happens in most accidents. Or take the brain part out. You see the emotion and everything change, because now the information is not the way it used to be from the beginning that the brain was built upon. Because The magnetic field within the structure of the bone marrow of the bone of the head is changed now. It has a different physical field dimension. The emotion changes, everything changes. The vision changes. Because now this has to be focused in a different way that the rest of the brain is not geared up to. That's why the back head injuries creates blindness. Because you change this according to the information which was set up to convey and convert. You change the pressure. And that is because the bone marrow was set inside the skull to hold that, because that's how it can create and control the soul, maintaining the physical structure of the brain. People who have a brain operation, their character totally changes. Because it's not that they move the brain, they touch the containment. This containment, it changes. You made a hole in it, not different fields come in. We see this in the birth of new children. The top of the head is soft because the brain is still developing, the structure is still creating different fields to allow and accommodate the growth and the field interaction and what can be held by the soul. We got to understand the truth, otherwise we carry on with the same fallacy. We are a bunch of magnetic fields of different strength with different behavior, which makes our bone, our flesh, and our behavior, and our psychology, and our soul. But in principle, all of us fit within the certain bracket of the magnetic field, which is the amino acid of the man. Everything else is attachment to it. And each attachment is limited to what it is. As I said before, the body of the man has every element on this planet because it has used it for a purpose or other to make itself more efficient. We find in the body of the man the most rare earth materials we never knew existed. But this within body of man, if it exists on this planet, is being added or being connected to the amino acid somewhere. What is conversion has to pass the amino acid. When you look at the bone marrow, when you look at the bone structure, in your bone marrow, everything is decided to be produced. On the top of the bone, what they call the spongy part, now dictates, this is now common denominator. Again, the same, you look at the fluffiness, it has a certain gap. And the same. You remember the way it came in with different size holes? Now, different size holes goes out. This has become a red cell, this become your immune system, and the rest of it. Then we understand the totality of the creation. And all these are nanomaterials which control what the strength goes through them and what they need to add by the field strength to go, because their own structure is decided by the bone marrow when it was created. Preset. When you have a chemo, you block this or you change this so you don't receive. This is why we say people who have a hip operation, they create what is known fatty liver and fatty heart, because now this is gone. There's other part of the bone which is on the other end. in the knee. Now all this doesn't have the processing and it has to come out as amino acids fat, getting sucked out. Is produced, has to be used, habit of the body of the man, stores things. So it's created, one day might be used. So deposit around the heart, around the liver. When you have a fatty liver or fatty cells, look at the function of the bone and the bone marrow, nowhere else. Because that's where the fat comes from, that's where the protein was produced. And the body stores. It might need it one day. We see fatty liver, fatty heart, fatty kidneys were the mainly people who had a hip operation. But the top of the bone of the femur has been cut. That's the reason. Has nowhere to go, but the body continuously produces on its length. So comes, has not got the right filtering to go out. So what it does as a raw material comes out. They haven't touched the physical part of the bone, they just took the top off. It extrudes coming in and extrudes going out according to field strength. There is a part of the bone which has no holes, it's just like the strings, which plays the vibration for what to come in this part. Now we understand the technology, the frequency on that bandwidth. When I tell you that when you have a masks like G5 or whatever, this is what your own body plays a frequency for what to come in. Now you're adding that frequency from outside, which interferes with what can come in. And then you see the effects of it through the bone marrow. Depends what that frequency will tune into in your body. And it's usually done in a bone marrow, in a bone structure conversion. Very seldom we see the interaction with, unless they create a massive vibration within the cell structure of the plasma of the tissues. It's the same with the virus, but that covers the entirety of the structure of a cell. I carry the knowledge of the universe and be seen many different ways. Never been to a medical school and never touched anything in that dimension. I created it, I know how, and understand the way. And if you add to the same thing, if you understand the same thing, then you understand how emotion is created. The creation of emotion is an extension of your amino acid bone marrow. But there it gets converted to another dimension.
Dobrnęliśmy do końca tego wykładu. Jeśli ktoś chciałby coś powiedzieć, to zapraszam. Okej, jeśli nie ma pytań, to zapraszam do obejrzenia ponownie w wolnej chwili tego warsztatu, bo jest dużo wiedzy w nim. A jak wiemy, jak pierwszy raz nie utrwalimy sobie, nie zobaczymy, nie połączymy sobie tych kropek, no to ciężko będzie zapamiętać, skacząc do następnego i do następnego, bowiem to po sobie, jak nie wrócę do wcześniejszego warsztatu, to się po prostu trochę gubimy i nie pamiętamy, o czym było. I to nie jest po prostu wykład na 2 godziny. To trzeba po prostu sobie jeszcze raz przesłuchać, porozmawiać na ten temat. Tak więc zapraszam też w tygodniu też na kanał. Nie pamiętam, jaki to jest numer pokoju, ale myślę, że Pomorskie Laboratorium Plazmy na Facebooku, tam będzie numer. Tak więc można wieczorami się spotykać i porozmawiać na temat tego warsztatu, wcześniejszych. Tak więc zapraszam. A na dzisiaj kończymy już. Tak więc to były 415 warsztaty poszukiwaczy wiedzy z niedzieli 15 listopada 2020 roku. Dzięki za przetłumaczenie, bo to jest mega robota, mega praca. Życzę miłego wieczoru i żegnam się. Cześć.
Nadszedł czas zmiany, przejścia do prawdziwego działania wszechświata. I nadszedł czas, aby zrozumieć, że używamy stanu materii, by osiągnąć poziom zrozumienia duszy człowieka. Teraz rozumiesz, być może, dlaczego Kreator wysłał swoich posłańców w imię tego, co miałeś. To oni przynoszą uszy, aby można było ich użyć, gdy nadejdzie czas Mesjasza. Mogę nauczyć duszę i przesłanie, nie by się przeciwstawiać, ale poprzez ich zrozumienie przez tych, którzy stali się Mesjaszami, aby dawać ze swoich dusz, aby ich elewować. Zadanie stało się łatwe. Szkoła jest tutaj i uczniowie są tutaj w oddaniu. Wtedy nie będzie żadnej walki między tym, co nazywają muzułmanami, a chrześcijanami. Baranek i lew będą jeść i spać w tym samym gnieździe. Chrześcijanie i muzułmanie będą spać i modlić się w meczecie, w tym samym kościele, w imię ich dusz, nie w imię religii, które są używane do tworzenia tak wielu konfliktów, dla korzyści tych, którzy byli hiperaktywnymi dziećmi. Nadszedł czas, czas zmian jest tutaj. I jak powiedziałem, moje życzenie jest moim rozkazem. Jeśli pragniesz ujrzeć pokój, droga pokoju jest wyłożona bardzo wyraźnie. To dusza świadomości zbiorowej. Poprzez dawanie stworzy tą pozycję zmiany. Nic innego. W duszy człowieka nie ma długopisu. Jestem pewien, że po wejściu do społeczności uniwersalnej nigdy nie zobaczysz niczego zapisanego, ale równowagę pól duszy egzystencji. Staraj się być na tyle pokornym, aby nie stać się aroganckim w mocy, którą zrozumiałeś i posiadłeś. Inaczej wpadniesz w tą samą ścieżkę kościoła i meczetu. To jest to, co obiecaliśmy i to właśnie dostarczyliśmy. Musimy zrozumieć działanie duszy i musimy zrozumieć, że dusza człowieka jest gwiazdą w kosmosie wszechświata. Jeśli porównamy duszę człowieka i tak wielu nas, 7 miliardów w jednym zbiorze, Ziemia jest jak galaktyka z tak wieloma gwiazdami. Kiedy patrzymy w głąb wszechświata, widzimy galaktyki z setkami milionów gwiazd. Podobnie jest z planetą Ziemią. Niesie 7 miliardów pięknych gwiazd, które są duszą człowieka. Niesie z sobą duszę tak wielu trylionów zwierząt, roślin i wszystkiego innego. Jeśli więc patrzą ci, którzy nie widzą fizyczności Ziemi i jej zawartości, co widzą? Widzą galaktykę z wielką ilością pięknych, świecących świateł. Każda według swojej siły. Każda zgodnie ze swoją pozycją. Niemowlę ma piękną duszę, podobnie jak staruszek. Dla tych niefizycznych, którzy nie widzą fizycznego wymiaru tej planety, ale widzą siłę pola, jesteśmy gromadami gwiazd. Ludzka rasa, każda pojedyncza dusza, nikt z daleka nie widzi. To jest dusza rybaka, to jest dusza kosmologa, to jest dusza prezydenta. Wszystkie świecą bez względu na fizyczność. To jest magia. Oto, co nowa nauka musi przynieść człowiekowi. Kiedy patrzymy przez naszą duszę, widzimy tylko gwiazdy w innych duszach. I to jest przełom, to jest zrozumienie. Na tym właśnie polegają te wszystkie nauki. Dojście do dojrzałości następnego poziomu, aby zrozumieć daleki kosmos. Wszechświat jest ostrygą dla tych dusz, które służą. Wtedy człowiek jest gotowy do wejścia w kosmos. Wtedy człowiek jest gotowy, aby stać się częścią uniwersalnej społeczności, która została obiecana. Nigdy nie obiecywałem wam nieba. Zawsze obiecywałem wam elewację człowieka, aby przyłączył się do rodziny. A teraz macie klucz. To wy musicie otworzyć drzwi, aby zrozumieć, że mogę elewować duszę tych ludzi lub milionów innych dusz. Że fizyczne życie na tej planecie zmieni się. Wtedy jestem godny bycia częścią społeczności uniwersalnej. By być, aby służyć, aby się rozwijać, by być tam, aby być częścią, że w cyklu życia wszechświata staje się w byciu częścią, staje się częścią totalności. Kiedy człowiek osiągnie ten punkt, pojawi się nowy wymiar w sile duszy człowieka, który jest poza wyobrażeniem zrozumienia życia fizycznego. To jest brama do otwarcia nowego życia w nowym wymiarze, co jest poza wyobrażeniem tego, co mogliście nazwać nowym początkiem, nowym cyklem, gdzie ten cykl niesie ze sobą Źródło stworzenia życia we wszechświecie i unikosie. To jest elewacja duszy, aby służyć. Stała się kluczem. Nie tron życia fizycznego. Czas jest odpowiedni, nadszedł czas, aby człowiek przeszedł przez ten proces.